Hey folks, how you doing? Everybody's looking good. You like to lost some weight though. You know, the pocketbooks are good. Christmas holiday came around, you know. Just want to make sure that everybody's in good spirits. We're going to have fun today. We're going to have some inspiration. We're going to have some motivation. And I think you're going to like what you see today. So, welcome to today's celebration of luncheon in honor of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I am Second Lieutenant Stephen Hartfield from the MIL-SATCOM System Director, and I'll be your narrator for today's event. Our presiding official is Mr. Robert Charlton, Director of the MIL-SATCOM System Director, and our keynote speaker is Mr. Earl Payson, Vice President of Civic Engagement at the University of Southern California. Please ensure all electronic devices are turned off at this time and remove very badges. Thank you. Wouldn't want a distraction. I think you want to catch this moment for the rest of your lives. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation. At this time, I'd like to ask Chaplain Rashad El Sadiq to please come forward to lead us in prayer.
Please join me in prayer. In God's name, gracious and merciful, Almighty God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for bringing forth this gathering. We thank you for safe arrival in spite of the rain. I thank you for being called upon to invoke your blessings upon this gathering. Almighty God, we especially thank you for this opportunity to remember and to reflect upon the legacy of your honored and devoted servant, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Almighty God, we acknowledge today that you have truly blessed this nation by gifting us with the life of Dr. King, who stood as a shining light for the world, reminding us of our God-given duty to courageously champion freedom and justice, and to never fail in our duty to preserve the dignity and worth of all human beings. Let us be strengthened. Let us be inspired. Let us recommit ourselves to these ideals. Almighty God, we acknowledge today that there are many who are uncertain about the days that lie ahead, but let them find comfort in the remembrance that you are an all-wise, all-knowing, and all-powerful God. And Almighty God, we follow your servant Dr. King's example in that he often invoked your help for our nation's leaders. Almighty God, as those who will soon grasp the reins of leadership in just a few days, we ask that you guide them and that you imbue them with wisdom, with humility, and with full awareness of your awesome power. In your name, amen.
Thank you, Chaplain El Sadiq. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Now, before we begin today's event, we would like to take an opportunity to recognize the senior leadership and all of our special guests in attendance. Now, we ask you please hold your applause until the end. Lieutenant General Samuel A. Greaves, Commander, Space and Missile Systems Center. Ms. Pat Greaves, Vice Lieutenant General Samuel A. Greaves. Major General Retired Ed Bolton, Executive Vice President, the Aerospace Corporation. Mr. Thomas Fitzgerald, Director, Engineering Director. Colonel Charles P. Roberts, Commander, 61st Air Base Group. Mr. Michael Dunn, Technical Director, Global Positioning System Director. Colonel Christopher Wagner, Acting Director, Contracting. Colonel Norman Dozer, Director, Global Positioning System Director. Colonel Wallace Turnbull, Deputy Director, Space Superiority System Director. Colonel Thomas Rock, Chief, Range and Network System Division. Colonel Paul Cronin, Staff Judge Advocate. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to all our distinguished guests. So we appreciate you coming, everybody. So, the national holiday honoring Dr. King is a case for celebration of not only of his life's work, but it revolves around an idea of social change, of a high level of love and awareness for unity in America, and the world. This is a very special day, one which symbolizes our nation's commitment to peace through justice, to universal brotherhood and sisterhood, and to the noblest ideal as an encompassing foundation that this great nation is based upon. A democratic society based on the principles of freedom, justice, and equality for all people. The book entitled Creating Influence by author Deepak Chopra speaks on the idea of unity, detailing Dr. King's life's work in the following excerpt. This is my daily read, so this is everything I read to inspire myself. U stands for understanding the unity behind all diversity. Unity consciousness is a state of enlightenment where we pierce the mask of illusion, which creates separation and fragmentation. Behind the appearance of separation is one unified feel of wholeness. Here the seer and the scenery are one. We experience unity consciousness when we are in love, when we are with nature, gazing at the stars, or walking on the beach, listening to music, dancing, reading poetry, praying, and the sounds of meditation. In unity consciousness, we slip through the barrier of time into the playground of eternity, and when we say, the beauty of the mountain was breathtaking, time stood still, then you and the mountain become one. At a very deep level of awareness, we know that you and I and the mountain and everything else is the same being in different disguises. This is the state of love, not as a sentiment, but as the ultimate truth at the heart of all creation. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. King believed in two powers, manpower and the higher power. And when manpower is not in alignment with the higher power, there's going to be chaos. But when manpower is in proper alignment with the higher power's physical laws and rules, there will be justice. So you see, folks, this isn't about entertainment today. This isn't about lunch. This is about an idea that we're trying to promote that's generations beyond our limited thinking as today. So you have to understand, when you raise your awareness of the world around you, your perception of life changes. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, at this time, I present to you the street sweeper.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. I know that you're here to catch a glimpse of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who's staying at the Lorraine Motel. But while you wait, can I tell you what Dr. King told me? I just left the Memphis Sanitation Workers Meeting, and Dr. King was the keynote speaker. Dr. King said, all honest work is significant and deserves dignity and respect. I said, Dr. King, even my kind of work, I'm just a poor street sweeper. I'll never forget what Dr. King said to me. He said, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep the streets even as Michelangelo painted. Or Beethoven composed music. Or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep the streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. That's what Dr. King said to me. Here lives a great street sweeper
One more round of applause for Staff Sergeant Laura Williams. Now, here's your first learning moment, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what did we learn from this? That all honest work is significant and deserves dignity and respect. Before we begin the second portion of our program, I'd like to give you a special treat. So, we're going to explain about how to be able to rise to your true potential. Now, there's something that everyone in this crowd has in common with our given backgrounds, cultures, with everything that separates us. We all have one thing in common. It's nothing complex. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's a dream. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, there was a dream that all of us had in this room at one point or another, or if we're still trying to find it or not. But there is something that we do with our talents and abilities that we are given and put on this earth to do. Now, at this time, I would like to ask Ms. Gloria Dees to come forward. I always want to give you a quick story about how I got here with my own church mama. These are the kinds of people that help us reach our potential. Ms. Gloria Dees, Mr. Lance Reed, Ms. Rosie Dees. We have everybody that can be able to be a lifeline for us in our lives. So you want to talk about a long shot, we can tell them how we got here. So a young black kid from San Antonio, Texas, graduates high school and goes to Virginia Tech to become an engineer. 2 years later, he flunks out. He comes back to San Antonio where he was born and raised, and he became a substitute teacher, and then he became a community college class participant. So a year later, after he goes to community college, he gets interest into Prairie View A&M University to become an engineer again, because I knew that I have what it takes to become who I need to be. So along the way, when I was becoming an engineer at Prairie View, went through so much amount of struggles, going through so much amount of just overcoming what I had to get to know that I had what it takes to get to where I was going. I'm talking about eating sugar toast, trying to figure out if I had to decide between gas money or going to pay rent or even groceries. But then I graduated, and I had a slim chance to get the United States Air Force to become an officer. So after I graduated, I went to OTS in Montgomery, Alabama. A lot of great memories. And then afterwards, I got sent to Los Angeles, California, a place I'd never been before. I had no family. And the thing about it is that when I met my mama right here, Miss Dees, she introduced me to a church called New Mount Pleasant Baptist Church in Inglewood, California. Now, when I was 4 or 5 years old, my grandparents took me to a New Mount Pleasant Baptist Church in San Antonio. And so after finding out, becoming a member, that the same minister, Reverend Merriweather, that founded New Mount Pleasant Inglewood, was a minister at the San Antonio New Mount Pleasant. And so when I heard that fact, I was like, this is living the purpose. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, this might be a typical luncheon for you. But for me and my mama right here, we're living our purpose. All right? Okay. Good. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the songstress singing Rise Up.
Pleasure now to present the moral leader of our nation, one who has conducted a massive moral campaign in the southern area of the nation against the citadel of racism, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Thank you, Mr. Randolph. I would simply like to say that I think this has been one of the great days of America. And I think this march will go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, demonstrations for freedom and human dignity ever held in the United States.
Freedom Now movement, hear me. We are requesting all citizens to move into Washington, to go by plane, by car, bus, any way that you can get there. Walk if necessary. We are pushing for jobs, housing, desegregated schools. This is an urgent request. Please join. Go to Washington.
On a merry-go-round, you can find the fighter. I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Woo, mountains, we gon' walk it out. Woo, mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up. I'll do it 1,000 times again. I'll rise up. High like the waves. I'll rise up. In spite of the ache. I'll rise up. I'll do it 1,000 times again. The silence is so quiet, and I feel like it's getting hard to breathe. I know you feel like dying, but I promise you we'll take the world to its feet. Woo, mountains, take it to its feet. Woo, mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up. And I'll do it 1,000 times again. Oh, yeah. And I'll rise up. High like the waves. I'll rise up. In spite of the ache. I'll rise up. And I'll do it 1,000 times again. Hey. All we need is hope. And for that we have each other. And for that we have each other. Yeah. We will rise up, we will rise up, we will rise. Oh, we will rise. I'll rise up. High like the day. I'll rise up. In spite of the ache. Never rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up. High like the waves. We'll rise up. In spite of the ache. We'll rise up. And we'll do it 1,000 times again. Oh, with you. With you. With you. Oh, with you. Yeah. We're right. Oh, we're right. Together we're standing. We'll rise.
Let's give another round of applause to Miss Tasha Jeter, known as the Songstress. So, once again, this is definitely a true learning moment. That we need each other, and with hope,